Bonjour. Bonjour à tous. Merci beaucoup Jean-François pour cette introduction. Chers collègues pénalistes, frère chef, Matthew Coon Come, chef Dominique, merci. Je me présente à liberté trésorier de la Société Makivik. Je ferai ma présentation en anglais. J'aspirais de parler à ma langue, mais je pense que ce serait la seule qui me comprendrait. Alors, on va se rencontrer au milieu. Alors, je vais parler en anglais. Makivik Corporation was created in 1978 following the signing of a historic James Bay and Northern Quebec Agreement in 1975. First of all, I'm still getting used to this. Every time you can't keep your heart from getting a little faster. Just get used to it after. I'm getting better. I like this though. It's good to be around people like you guys. The first modern day land claims agreement in Canada. That was the James Bay Agreement. I am delighted to be here with you today and would like to thank everyone for attending this conference and engage in a discussion we will have today. We believe that we are finally at an important turning point with regards to energy in Nunavik. And we are committed to full part in every important steps going forward with the development of renewable energy in our region. Nunavik, our homeland, is a vast territory that covers 1/3 of the province of Quebec, including a large offshore region. Inuit represent over 90% of a total population of 12,000. We live in 14 remote and isolated communities spread along the Hudson Bay, Hudson Strait, and Ontario Bay. The region has a wealth of mineral and wildlife resources and possess some of the most picturesque natural attractions. Populations that relies heavily on subsistence activities including hunting, fishing, and trapping. 35% of our population is under the age of 15, which creates both challenges and opportunities. Makivik, an ethnic organization, mandated to support and promote Nunavik Inuit. It is responsible for ensuring that the Inuit obtain the benefits that economic development can bring, while at the same time ensuring that this development is balanced with our culture and societal values in Inuit, as Inuit. Some of you have seen our recent documentary, So That You Can Stand, that presents from the negotiators themselves the story of the James Bay and Northern Quebec Agreement and the challenges that Nunavik Inuit faced in the early 1970s. For both Inuit and the Cris, it was indeed a David and Goliath battle. Much was achieved. There were compromises and there were also losses. Now, 40 years later, we have learned a lot since and have come a long way. We have negotiated further land claims agreements in the offshore and overlap agreements with Nunavut and Labrador Inuit and with the Cris. We also succeeded in negotiating an impact and benefit agreement back in 1995 with Falcon Bridge and the Rattlin Mine. This was the first agreement in the North with financial provision for revenue sharing. Since then, we have negotiated a similar agreement with Canadian royalties and have set the stage for others. As we all know, however, the global economy is in a downturn and the mining sector is being severely affected. Decreasing demand for commodities has caused a dramatic decline in the price of metal and consequently in new mining activities. While this is worrisome in many ways, there is also a positive side. It's called breathing room. For us in Nunavik, it comes at a very opportune time. The original Plan R, under a former Liberal government led by Jean Charest, was driven almost exclusively by the old-style philosophy that northern Quebec was a place to be exploited. The James Bay days were driven by hydro development. The original Plan R was driven by the plans for mineral development. Under the subsequent PQ government, it became le Nord pour tous. Again, the message was that northern Quebec was open for business and that unprecedented opportunities awaited investors. Government was preparing to provide billions with the promise of thousands of jobs for Quebecois and billions into the GDP, growth of domestic product. There was very little talk about what this would mean for the Aboriginal inhabitants, not all of whom, I should point out, are protected through treaty rights. Under the law, under the new Liberal government, the Plan R has taken a promised shift. It is seeking partnership with the Aboriginal communities and sees development of northern resources as mutual benefit. It states as one of its objectives to ensure that resources development in the north is conducted in a way that benefits the population living in the area and contributes to the progress in Quebec as a whole. It is concerned that the development should be supported by local and Aboriginal communities and is socially acceptable. During this same period, that is over the last 3 years, Makivik, along with all the regional organizations in Nunavik, embarked on what is known as Pagnasimodic. By the way, that word means, in our own language, Plan R, getting ready. In 2013, Inuit leaders of the 7 organizations participated in a multi-day workshop in all communities. Topics related to the day-to-day lives of Inuit, their challenges, and their vision for the future were discussed. The result was the production of the Pagnasimodic consultation report in 2014. It presents a comprehensive vision for the future of Nunavik Inuit. Families and communities. As well, it sets the stage for the renewal of relationship with the government and industry. In Pagnasimodic, we also address the question of energy and renewable energy. Regarding energy, the 14 isolated communities of Nunavik are supplied with fossil fuel energy. In 1 year, Hydro-Quebec diesel generators power plants uses 25 million liters of oil, just to supply basic electricity needs. In addition, 28 million liters of oil is consumed annually for heating houses and other buildings. On the industrial side, Glencore Raglan alone consumes over 60 million liters a year of fossil fuel for its operation. That is our Raglan mine. In last year only, 3 major oil spills occurred in our region. 2 land spills at Hydro-Quebec power plants, 1 in Inuit and 1 in Inukjuak, and 1 at sea in the harbor of Saglit when a fuel tanker was unloading fuel supplies for community. Besides the huge environmental impediments, including greenhouse gas, there are several other important factors that must be thought about with regards to increasing our or future energy needs in Nunavik. The huge cost of construction and operation of Nunavik's Hydro-Quebec diesel power plants is another important factor. Now, some of these plants are reaching either maximum capacity or an end of life. The cost for construction or overhaul of existing plants are significant. It is now time to look at other alternatives. And the technology is moving ahead fast and costs going down. The opportunities are there. And nonetheless, operating in Arctic conditions brings its load of challenges, and further research and assessment must be done. Pilot projects are needed regarding renewable energy with a focus on not only providing alternate sources of electricity, but to test and evaluate the feasibility of these alternate sources for the Nunavik region. I will list some important projects that we see happening in our region. For example, connection of Kutruk and other communities to the Quebec electrical power grid. The mineral development of the Labrador Trout will require massive needs of energy. Connecting closer communities is a must. Construction of a small-scale hydroelectric project in the community of Nitruk. Construction of wind power facilities. Development of hydrokinetic energy with tidal and river generator units. Makivik sees a lot of great potential, particularly with these technologies. Makivik Corporation is the point of entry for such development matters. We are taking this file with the greatest attention, and we are engaging fully in this while we're investing more of our resources. For example, we have formed an internal energy committee to address policy matters, and keep informed with potential development in Nunavik and other Arctic Inuit regions in Canada. We're also making technology evaluation and opportunities assessments. In the field of research, through funding provided by INAC, Makivik is working with several partners, including Hydro-Quebec Research Institute, to determine the hydrokinetic potential of the Kutruk River. We are also looking at the possibility of developing a research program at the Nunavik Research Center of alternate and renewable energy sources in partnership with other research institutes. Further research must be conducted to determine the effects of the Arctic environment on current technologies. For example, the effect of fragile ice on an underwater turbine. Further research must also be conducted on the effects of technology on the environment. For example, how will an underwater turbine affect fish stocks and marine mammals? The Nunavik region has a vast potential for several forms of renewable energy options, including in the river underwater turbines, marine, tidal options, wind energy, and even solar energy. For us, Nunavik Inuit, at this day and age of potential renewable energy in our region, it is important that we are at the heart of the discussions, planning and opportunities. And we want to ensure that negative impacts on the environment are minimized. We also want to maximize the benefits from it through employment, priority of contracts, co-management of ownership of projects. We fully support the development of renewable energy in our region, and Nunavik Inuit wants to be part of this at this time. There is strong moral and business case for involving Inuit in development. We surely hope the moral case is obvious. Our common challenge now is to continue to work together on a business case where everyone benefits. Considerable effort by all of us will be required to achieve sustainable and equitable development. We need to build strong and enduring relationships, share information, and invest in our youth, and must ensure that a fair share of wealth stays in Nunavik to support economic growth, improve our standard of living and the quality of life. Merci. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I was beginning to wonder who he was referring to. Well, it gives me a great honor. Good afternoon, bonjour, good day. Of course, I thank the organizers for their kind invitation, give me an opportunity to address you in regards to some of our issues. And I'm sure I too will learn from my two panelists here. And I look forward to some good Q&As at this conference. Energy is a matter of fundamental importance for the Cris. It affects our life every day. And certainly almost half of Hydro-Quebec's totally installed capacity is located in the Cris homeland we call Inuit. No, I am not swearing. Roughly 17,000 megawatts out of 3,000 megawatts are in our territory. So the Cris are critical partners in renewable energy for Quebec and Hydro-Quebec. The Cris want to be active partners in energy. We want to develop the renewable energy potential of Inuit, but on our own terms, to provide a clear governance framework for this development. My nation has begun a process with Cree First Nations to prepare the Cree Nation energy policy. My remarks today will touch on some of our broad orientations on energy and governance rather than on specific projects. First, a few words about the Cree, Inuit, and some key milestones in recent Cree history. The Cree of Inuit number around 18,000. We call our homeland Inuit. It means the land of the people. It covers more than 350,000 square kilometers. It's fully occupied by the Cree and used primarily for traditional activities. While very much of my people are engaged in our traditional culture, the Cree have become increasingly involved in our economic activities in Inuit. Over the past 40 years, we have made our economic presence increasingly felt both in the territory and beyond. Our different companies, including Crico, Air Quebec, Cree Construction Development Company, are major actors in the economic development of northern Quebec. We are now establishing a Cree Development Corporation, which will serve as a catalyst for Cree participation in energy, resource, and other development projects in the Inuit. Like my good friend Andy mentioned, of course, our history did not start with the signing of the James Bay Northern Quebec Agreement, but it created and aroused the Cris to stand up for their rights in protecting a way of life as hunters, fishermen, and trappers. We took illegal action, of course, as any history knows. Historians, First Nations are never consulted, never asked what they think. So consequently, you shouldn't be surprised if they contest and file a major court action claiming there's an unsurrender of legal title to the land. So that is what we did. Following that, of course, we began 2 years negotiations. Agreement is signed called the James Bay Northern Quebec Agreement. It's a model land claims agreement. It's actually entrenched in the Constitution. Therefore, those are constitutional rights. And in 1982, that's what we achieved. The only amendment in those discussions on the Amendments to the Canada Act was actually to recognize modern land claims agreements as treaties. So the agreement is a very complex document containing 30 chapters. But for our purpose today, Chapter 22 merits a special attention. Establish a Cree environmental and social protection regime, including the first environmental assessment and a review process in Canada. This regime aims to minimize the impacts of development activity on the Cree, to protect the wildlife, and the environment with respect to development, and protect the hunting, fishing, trapping rights of the Cree. Another historical agreement we signed was Pays de Brave. Of course, before that was the Great Well River Project, which we opposed, mainly because we were the ones that felt the impact of the James Bay hydroelectric project, which is neatly exempted from any environmental impact assessment. So we were not necessarily anti-development, we only wanted to have a say in the way development happens. So now, of course, the Great Well was suspended, legal proceedings started, but on the other hand, when you sign agreements, you reasonably expect the federal and provincial governments to live up to their commitments and legal obligations. Thus, they didn't, and thus we went to court. But we did sign an agreement called Pays de Brave, and that agreement set aside old conflicts and reset a new relationship. And so that was signed in February 7, 2012. We didn't want to sign it on February 14. That would conflict with Valentine's Day, God forbid. So this agreement is known as Pays de Brave. So with regard to energy, Quebec commits in the Pays de Brave to facilitate the signature of the agreements between promoters and the Cris concerning remedial works, employment, and contract with respect to hydroelectric projects in the territory. Quebec also undertakes to ensure that Hydro-Quebec encourages partnerships with the Cris. The Pays de Brave marked a turning point in relations between the Cris, Quebec, and Hydro-Quebec. From confrontation, these relationships have evolved towards partnerships. Why? In large part because of a new recognition that energy development in Inuit needs the active participation of the Cris. That partnership must be based on mutual respect, respect for the environment, and social acceptability. The period since the signing of Pays de Brave has seen major energy developments in Inuit. In December of 2012, for example, I joined former Premier Charest, Terry Vandel, then President of Hydro-Quebec, in the inauguration of an important new East Main one-day hydroelectric project. This project was approved under the environmental and social protection regime of Section 22 of the James Bay Agreement. It met the criteria of environmental and social acceptability for the Cris. The project has provided significant benefits in terms of training, jobs, contracts for the Cris, and it has contributed to prosperity, not just for the Cris, but I believe also for all Quebecers. So on Plan Nord, in response to the government of Quebec's Plan Nord, we released our Cris vision of Plan Nord in 2011. It states that the Cris are open to the development of renewable energy resources of Inuit. Sorry, what did I just do? I'm not against technology. So the Plan Nord states that Cris are open to development of renewable energy resource of Inuit, subject to certain principles and conditions. For example, energy development projects must be environmentally and socially acceptable and approved under the environmental and social protection regime of Section 22 of the James Bay Northern Quebec Agreement. With regard to renewable energy, the Cris vision of Plan Nord calls for a block of renewable energy to be set aside for the development by the Cris in Inuit. The amount of this Cris block is to be determined in negotiations between the Cris and the government of Quebec. The Cris have noted with interest the allocation of Quebec of blocks of wind energy to the Mi'kmaq communities of Gaspé, and of course to Gilbert Dominique as part of the Innu Nation. The government, as you know, cited this announcement as an example of partnership with the Indigenous nations under the Plan Nord. The government also stated that this partnership with the Innu demonstrated Quebec's commitment to involve Indigenous communities in the development of Quebec's North. The Cree Nation applauds the next step by Quebec to partner with Mi'kmaq and Innu in the development of renewable wind energy projects. And of course, we wish the partners very success. We of course look forward to a similar initiative by Quebec to partner with the Cree to develop our own renewable energy projects in the Inuit. The introduction mentioned the governance agreement. We changed the political structure in the way decisions are made within the Northern James Bay, because the Crees were excluded from participating. Thus we removed the municipality of Bay James, created the Inuit James Bay Regional Government that's responsible over close to 300,000 square kilometers of land. we joined and sit with the Jamiesians of the North and the Cris. I am presently the president of the University James Bay Regional Government. And of course, this agreement ended the exclusion of the Cris from the governments of the territory. And it established a governance partnership between the Cree and the neighbors, the Jamiesians. So the governance agreement has two components. Category 3 lands, it's approximately 300,000 square kilometers of land. That's about 80% of the territory of 350,000 square kilometers of land. So this entity replaces Municipality de la Baie James. And we're responsible for the exercise of municipal management, economic development, land and resource planning. So if you plan to do any projects within about 350,000 square kilometers between a 49 to the 55th parallel, so you have to talk to us. And I am the president, so you can talk to me. I'm available. Second, the governance agreement provided for Cree autonomy on Category 2 land. That's 70,000 square kilometers of land. There again, I am the chairman of the Cree Nation government, and of course we're responsible again of jurisdiction dealing with the local and regional government and land and resource use and planning. So with regard to energy, the governance agreement provides for special Cree participation in the development of renewable energy projects. First, the governance agreement reserves exclusively to Cree-controlled entities the development of hydroelectric projects of 50 megawatts or less of any wind energy projects on Category 2 lands. These projects must be Cree energy projects, defined basically as entities controlled by the Cree Nation or Cree First Nation. The projects are subject to a tender solicitation of electricity purchase program of Hydro-Quebec. However, Hydro-Quebec production may purchase electricity on a negotiated contract basis. Second, the Cree Nation government, in certain cases, enter into a nation-to-nation agreement with the government of Quebec to assume resource management jurisdictions on Category 2 lands, including with respect to energy resources. The Cree remain free to enter into projects for the development of renewable energy projects on Category 3 lands as well, although without the exclusivity of such projects. On the Cree Nation energy policy, the university has vast potential for wind, hydro, and biomass energy projects. The Cree want to develop this potential, but again on our own terms and to ensure maximum benefit for the Cree. The Cree have some experience in developing renewable energy projects. The Cree Nation of Wiminji negotiated 1.1 megawatt run-off-the-river project. Now they're now attached to the grid now. As I began at the beginning, the Cree Nation government has begun a process to develop a Cree Nation energy policy, which will apply throughout the traditional Cree territory of Inuit. This policy will be developed in close consultations with Cree First Nations and other Cree entities. Pending completion of this policy, it is not appropriate to comment on any specific renewable energy project or technology. Nevertheless, it may be helpful to indicate here some broad orientations. At first principle will be to protect and promote Cree rights under our treaty, the James Bay Northern Quebec Agreement, and other agreements. Another will be to minimize the environmental and social impact of energy projects. Third will be to minimize benefits for the Cree, including through the right to contract and employment priority provided for in Section 28 of the James Bay Northern Quebec Agreement. The Cree Nation is open to partnerships, but only on terms that advance the Cree, which is Cree control. Tangible benefits for the Cree are essential conditions of any such partnership. The Cree control must be real, not in name only. The selection of potential partners must be rigorous and transparent. This will normally entail a request for a proposal process. Given our historical relationship, special consideration may be given to potential partners with Hydro-Quebec. The partners and projects for the Cree Nation must be subject through a due diligence. Projects must show technical and financial feasibility. They must be supported by the Cree community. Potential partners should demonstrate experience in working with indigenous communities on similar projects in remote northern regions. Other criteria will likely apply as well. In its supply plan 2014 to 2023 for independent networks, Hydro-Quebec distribution states that renewable energy projects for off-grid communities must be technically and economically feasible, environmentally acceptable, and positively supported by the communities concerned. This criteria should also apply to the renewable project, energy projects in UNSG. Cree entrepreneurs may, of course, pursue their projects with partners of their own choosing. In such case, normal process would apply. The Cree Nation government would not usually become involved to promote the project. Our work on the Cree Nation energy policy continues. The Cree First Nation and other Cree stakeholders will be fully consulted in separate, but it is clear that our energy policy will ensure transparency, accountability, and value for money, and of course for the benefit of Cree Nation. And if there's partnership, of course, benefit for the partners. And of course, if it's good for the Crees, it will be good for the Quebecers. With that, I thank you very much. I think I did it right on time.
Alors, à mon tour de vous remercier pour cette belle invitation, cet honneur pour venir vous partager, bien entendu, à la fois nos points de vue, nos constats, nos aspirations dans le domaine énergétique. Ici, je représente pas juste Mashteuiatsh, j'ai cet honneur-là de représenter l'ensemble de la Grande Nation Innu, les 9 communautés situées, bien sûr, là, sur le territoire qu'on appelle le Québec. Je voudrais bien sûr prendre le temps de saluer là, mes collègues panélistes, toujours fort agréable de pouvoir vous entendre. C'est assurément là, inspirant, si l'on veut. Les défis des Premières Nations, peu importe où on se situe, au Québec ou à travers le pays, sont assurément là, très, très similaires. Les 9 communautés Innu que je représente, c'est une bonne population de Premières Nations au Québec. Nos territoires traditionnels, qu'on appelle dans notre langue Ntassinam, couvrent une très large partie du plan Nord, un plan de développement sur plusieurs années de la société québécoise. Et inévitablement, considérant que ça se passe aussi sur nos territoires, nous souhaitons, avec le gouvernement du Québec et la société québécoise, forger de réels partenariats pour qu'enfin, on puisse aussi bénéficier des retombées du développement organisé du territoire. Vous savez, les 9 communautés que je représente, nous avons une population aussi très jeune, avec tous les défis qui s'imposent, particulièrement au niveau de la formation, particulièrement également du côté de l'emploi. Vous savez, c'est une équation, hein? Pour permettre à nos jeunes de pouvoir s'épanouir, inévitablement, il faut que ceux-ci aient la meilleure formation possible. Et pour les amener à avoir la meilleure formation, ça prend de la perspective d'emploi intéressant également. Donc, on est confronté à cette réalité-là, avec bien sûr le maintien de l'équilibre quant à nos activités traditionnelles et bien sûr le territoire. Donc, c'est la toile de fond. On vit des enjeux sociaux qui sont parfois pathétiques, on ne s'en cache pas. On a bien sûr beaucoup de pain sur la planche, si l'on veut, pour rendre l'état de santé de nos populations équivalent à nos voisins. C'est un défi que l'on se donne, c'est un défi à laquelle je vous dirais que nous n'avons bien sûr pas le choix. La nation Innu, les 9 communautés que je représente, possèdent bien sûr des droits ancestraux sur l'ensemble de son territoire traditionnel. Des droits ancestraux qui contiennent aussi un titre aborigène. Il y a 3 communautés parmi les 9 qui sont en négociation territoriale globale. Celle que je représente, Mashteuiatsh, celle de la communauté d'Espit et celle de Noutaquan sur la Basse-Côte-Nord. Nous sommes en négociation depuis bon nombre d'années. On a signé une entente de principe en 2004 et on devrait terminer les discussions autour du 31 mars prochain. On a eu un décalage, bien sûr, avec les élections, les longues la longue période des élections fédérales dernièrement. On devait terminer, bien sûr, là, le 31 décembre passé. Donc, c'est un exercice qui est attendu au niveau de nos Premières Nations, bien entendu, parce que ça fait déjà, je vous dirais, depuis le début des années 80 que nous sommes en processus de négociation territoriale globale. La particularité de notre démarche est assurément inspirante. C'est la seule entente à travers le pays qui est travaillée sur la base de la reconnaissance de nos droits et non de l'extinction. Et ça, c'est une approche qui est tout à fait novateur, mais nous avons dû faire face là, à de grandes embûches, si l'on veut, pour garder en vie, après tant d'années, cette formule juridique que nous avons développée, avec bien sûr l'assistance des différents milieux gouvernementaux. Ceci étant dit, les grands projets de développement énergétique font partie de nos vies et de nos enjeux depuis plusieurs décennies maintenant. Ils ne sont pas tous développés au même rythme sur le grand territoire de la nation Innu, mais il s'agit d'une réalité incontournable pour toutes nos communautés aujourd'hui. Pendant longtemps, nous avons en quelque sorte été exclus de ce développement. Nous l'avons même subi. Comme on le sait tous, ce temps est actuellement révolu. Aujourd'hui, les communautés de la nation Innu affirment haut et fort leur existence, leurs droits, leurs titres, leur présence sur une tassinane, sur leur territoire traditionnel, et aussi leur volonté d'être des partenaires dans le développement durable, dans le développement structuré des ressources et du territoire. Le développement énergétique doit être un élément clé dans notre développement comme Première Nation pour le futur. Nous croyons au concept du partenariat lorsque celui-ci est fait sur la base du respect, dans une approche gagnant-gagnant et dans une approche de développement structurant. Inévitablement, les communautés de la nation Innu sont au rendez-vous. Nous sommes aussi, comme l'ensemble de la société, à la recherche d'un juste équilibre dans l'évolution de nos nations et dans le développement du territoire et bien entendu le développement des ressources qui comprend bien sûr là, toute la sphère de la protection. Le mode de vie qu'ont pratiqué si longtemps nos ancêtres constitue encore aujourd'hui la pierre d'assise de notre propre identité culturelle et est une continuelle source d'inspiration dans nos actions et dans le déploiement de nos objectifs. Il est important de respecter cet élément fondamental qui nous caractérise. Au même moment, nous sommes bien conscients que l'avenir de nos communautés passe par un réel et significatif développement socio-économique. Nous avons, comme la presque totalité des autres nations autochtones à travers le pays, une population jeune qui est en croissance continuelle. En tant que leader, nous devons répondre aux besoins de ces jeunes qui veulent un avenir rempli d'espoir et de dignité, un avenir qui va être en équilibre entre les traditions et bien entendu la modernité. Nous avons aussi de plus en plus d'entrepreneurs, d'entreprises qui veulent croître et contribuer au développement de leur communauté. Les partenariats d'affaires qui découlent des ententes liées au développement de projets doivent aussi considérer cet aspect. Nos entreprises sont en mesure d'établir des liens solides avec les entreprises qui sont actives dans nos régions. Il ne faut jamais négliger que les retombées de nos activités bénéficient à l'ensemble des régions où nous nous trouvons. Sur nos territoires, nous avons connu le développement de grands projets hydroélectriques, Manic, Outard, SM3, Churchill, Chute des Passes et plusieurs autres. Nous avons trop peu souvent réussi à négocier des ententes sur les répercussions et avantages de ces projets. C'est tout à fait inacceptable. Depuis quelques années, nous avons aussi fait quelques percées là, dans le développement de plus petits projets hydroélectriques, particulièrement chez moi, à Mashteuiatsh, où notre communauté est partenaire dans 2 mini-centrales avec nos voisins immédiats, les Vues MRC, Domaine du Roi, Maria Champlain. On a convenu ensemble qu'au lieu de se confronter sur le développement, les meilleurs sites de développement énergétique de type mini-centrale, on a convenu de faire ça ensemble, sur la base de 50-50. Et on a réussi, là, bien sûr, là, à attacher 2 projets une qui est déjà en route, qui s'appelle Val-Jalbert, et la seconde on a entamé dernièrement. La construction, c'est la 11e chute sur la rivière Mistassini également. Au tournant des années 2000, en 2000-2001, je pense, on a également développé et mis en service une mini-centrale d'à peu près 10 MW sur la rivière Mistassini, au cœur de la municipalité de Beau-Mistassini. C'est ça, donc on a une autre centrale également. Donc, on a bien sûr là, un capital énergétique comme communauté de façon intéressante. On s'est développé également une structure pour assurer un développement structuré à court, moyen et long terme dans ce domaine. On a une société en commandite qu'on appelle le groupe PEC qui a le mandat de développer ce genre de projet-là. Alors, donc chez nous, il y a 3 mini-centrales au fil de l'eau que nous avons développées. Je prends la communauté de Pessamit également, qui ont 2 projets sur la table sur la rivière Portneuf. L'hydroélectricité demeure une source d'énergie acceptable du point de vue environnemental, mais il faut s'assurer de réduire au maximum les impacts sur le territoire et le mode de vie des Inuits. Par ailleurs, la nation Inuit a également le pied dans une nouvelle grande aventure de développement économique durable. Le 21 décembre dernier, nous avons annoncé avec le gouvernement du Québec la mise en place d'un partenariat dans le domaine des éoliennes afin de compléter le 200 MW de la stratégie énergétique du Québec 2006-2015. Pour l'instant, les détails du projet liés à ce partenariat doivent être peaufinés avant que nous puissions l'aborder publiquement, mais l'engagement et le support que le gouvernement du Québec et Hydro-Québec ont démontré dans ce dossier nous permettent d'envisager la concrétisation du beau défi de l'unité de la nation Inuit. Je dois vous avouer que la démarche de la nation Mi'kmaq nous a grandement inspirés. Je tiens aussi à mentionner que la communauté des Sipites et celle de Mashteuiatsh, nous sommes aussi impliqués activement dans différents projets, notamment biomasse, granules de bois. C'est une autre forme d'énergie de l'avenir qui mérite, bien entendu, que l'on s'y intéresse. En terminant, je voudrais vous partager peut-être une visée ou un objectif que nous pourrions assurément partager. Vous savez, comme société qui partage un même territoire, il faudrait assurément se donner une vision commune pour les générations futures. Il faudrait se donner une stratégie pour sortir de la dépendance que nous avons à l'égard des ressources non renouvelables. Là-dessus, merci beaucoup.
Bon, alors, si on synthétise le tout, on peut voir que l'approche qui est celle de l'industrie, c'est-à-dire l'acceptabilité sociale, c'est-à-dire d'avoir du dialogue, c'est-à-dire le respect. On comprend que c'est quelque chose de fondamental, c'est quelque chose que vous appréciez. La bonne nouvelle qu'on a eue, c'est qu'on a vu que les Premières Nations ont fait le travail de leur côté. Et quand on a un client ou un partenaire qui sait ce qu'il veut, ben, ça va toujours mieux. So I was just saying that the fact that First Nation, you did your consultation, you know exactly what you're doing, the way you want it to do, you know the type of relationship you have. It's much more easier for everyone, and it's part of social acceptability. Now, many of you mentioned the relationship that you have with Hydro-Québec, but at the same time, you also mentioned the fact that you were looking for development on your territory. How do you see that you can make both things at the same time, or put it another way? Do you think that the kind of RFP that were done for run-of-the-river hydros or wind development in the south of Quebec could apply as well in the north to replace a diesel generator? Would it be kind of an approach that First Nation would be replacing these power lines with some partners? Would it be kind of model, or what kind of governments would you be looking for to replace these diesel power plants? Here it is, a mic. Will be easier like that. Okay. So,
Start with me.
yeah, why not?
Okay, my point of view.
Yeah.
Your question is RFP coming from my region to request for renewable resource.
Yeah, my question is that you clearly stated that you have some oil spill and you're kind of I would say more than bored of having fossil fuels, and you're definitely looking for renewables to replace them. What would be the kind of governance or the step-by-step approach that we'd like to have? Do you still want AQPER to run everything, or you would like to run it on your own?
That is a very interesting question. From my point of view, it's good that you're asking that to a treasurer. So I do have in Makivik, I do manage funds, and we do have investments. And just so that you understand, we do have a mandate under the James Bay Agreement that we make sure that it is respected, and we make sure that we handle the mandate of Makivik to provide the services for the region. And we do have five departments with a total of 90 people to run. And we are not funded by the government to run this, and we have been managing our funds that we received as compensation to make sure it generates money, and also that is reinsured continuity for the future of our people. To answer your question, fuel in our region is subsidized by the government. And I think at a certain point in time, is the government going to say, I've had enough, I don't want to spend so much anymore in the fuel. Maybe it starts to think about saving money, going into renewable energy, and at the same time, stop this greenhouse gas emission up north. And yes, us also, we are very interested in going to alternative energy, and we are willing to partner and see if we can work together going towards that route. Thank you.
Out of 10 Cree communities, there's only one community that uses a diesel generator, which is Mashteuiatsh, jointly with my Inuit friends in Quadrapa. So they're looking at biomass, of course, because it's very expensive for diesel. There's one community called Jobie. That community uses biomass. And if you look at their electric bill, they'd be really happy, they'd be smiling at how much they're paying. Then we have another community called Wiminji. They have a run-off-the-river project, 1.1 megawatts. The rest of the communities are of course, connected to the grid. But having said that, there is great potential within 350,000 square miles of land for renewable resource development. We have many companies that have come in and did their assessment, set up wind towers, put them up for a year, and we know the wind potential. And if you had wind power projects that could be feasible. And we also have many companies that came in to look at the run-off-the-river projects in which you can produce electricity. So there is great potential. The only difference for our area is that the agreement that we signed, that we referred to, which is the James Bay Agreement. In there, that agreement, it talks about if there's any modifications to the technical descriptions that we agree to the ground complex, it requires Cree consent. What does that mean? That means, for example, that the Hydro-Quebec, having received a mandate from the government of Quebec, are told, look, you need to refurbish the turbines. What that means is they will increase the flow. The water tables would be affected. That means then we'd have to agree because it modified the technical description, therefore it required negotiations. Sitting at that table then, of course, we would argue for a block of set aside for wind energy, because we know the potential there. And of course, the agreement provides for a compensation package if there was a refurbish of the turbines. So there is a great potential. I know with our Jamesians, when I was referring to the government's agreement, that they had a study of about 10 potential areas where they were looking at from all sorts of renewable energy. And we are assessing those projects. So there's great opportunity, but at the end of the day though, we can identify 100 megawatts over here, we can identify 300 megawatts over here, 50 megawatts over here, but you need the government of Quebec to be able to decide what their energy policy is, to make that announcement of how many megawatts that they're going to set aside. And once they do that, then I think we have I think at least for our side, the Cris are ready to be able to submit certain projects that could be considered for renewable energy.
Je te pose une question.
S'il vous plaît.
Oui, alors ma question, elle était sur le fait de dire qu'il y a encore beaucoup de communautés Inuit, c'est pas le cas de Mashteuiatsh, parce que vous êtes générateur d'électricité pour votre communauté. Puis la question était, quel genre de gouvernance vous souhaiteriez avoir pour remplacer les génératrices au diesel? Est-ce que ça serait un modèle où, comme traditionnellement, c'est Hydro-Québec qui s'en occuperait, ou vous regarderiez davantage sur un modèle où l'électricité serait générée comme par les communautés, soit seules, soit avec des partenaires? Quel genre de gouvernance vous verriez pour cette électricité qui viendrait remplacer les génératrices diesel?
Oui. Ben, moi, je pense que comme société, il faut assurément entamer un virage et venir prioriser des interventions là, pour permettre à ces communautés là, de faire un changement, un changement au niveau du modèle d'approvisionnement en matière énergétique. Okay? Donc, c'est assurément important. Maintenant, dans le commun, moi, je prends l'exemple de communautés là, à la Romaine qui ont un projet là, pour faire ce virage-là, un projet énergétique. Et ils veulent bien sûr le prendre là, en main, peut-être avec éventuellement des différents partenaires. Mais moi, je crois au modèle où effectivement que le milieu, les Premières Nations et peut-être avec d'autres acteurs, le milieu régional, puissent bien sûr là, porter ce type de projet-là. Ça fait en sorte que c'est des projets qui vont être structurants, qui vont maximiser là, ou optimiser les retombées là, dans leur coin de pays. Et c'est assurément beaucoup plus valorisant. Donc moi, je pense qu'il y a une fenêtre qui s'installe, particulièrement pour les communautés qui sont aux prises avec ces défis-là. Je prends la communauté qui sont voisins de ma communauté, la communauté esquimèque d'Obéchouane, qui essaie de développer de nouveaux projets là, avec de nouvelles filières pour faire ce changement-là. Et inévitablement, il faut, comme société, les accompagner là, dans le développement de leur propre